Welcome to Renegade Thinkers Unite, featuring the sharpest minds in marketing, inspirational case histories, and weekly insights you can apply to your business. Find out why top CMOs rank this podcast among their favorites. Now, here's your host, Chief Marketing Renegade, Drew Nizer.
Hey, it's Drew, and we're here at CES. Hopefully, again, you can hear some of the background noise. Doing something a little different in these episodes, talking to founders of technology companies and discussing some of the challenges that they have, some of the cool technology they have, but also the challenges they have bringing their products to market. So right now, on this show at CES, I am with Ohad Hever, who is the COO, and David Oren, who is the chief strategist of a company called UVeye. And UV as in under vehicle inspection system. Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit about that technology so you get a flavor for what we're thinking about. I will say I watched a video of you guys that you did that was scary. And somewhat, and I sort of immediately thought of a classic B2B marketing technique, which is called the FUD factor, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And that's one of the ways that you raise awareness of a challenge that you solve. So that's where your business started with, is this technology that can prevent, say, cars from accident blowing up and being able to detect it. Talk a little bit about the technology, how it got started.
So as you said, Drew, we started it from our personal experience. My partner Amir, the CEO, in his previous startup, had a meeting in one of the governmental offices. And when he reached with his car to the entrance, the guard simply lays over the ground and tries to see if there is any threats that attach to the undercarriage, the vehicle's undercarriage. And he asked him if he can see something. And he said, no, but if something will happen while I'll be inside, they can look at the camera and see that I did my job. So so this was the first thing that caught our mind to develop something that will be much more faster and accurate instead of the old method that we're already seeing currently in the market with guards with a large pole in the mirror with a mirror in the ends, and will be a significant thing that could replace the old method. So that's the point what we started.
And let me comment first that I love that story, and it's a great founder story because it's that moment, and the guard is just trying to do his job, and your brother sees this, and he sees this moment and goes, wait, there's a business opportunity here, because that's stupid. There's got to be a technological solution. So talk about how the technology actually works, how it scans cars to detect things.
So when the vehicle is passing above our vehicle, up to 45 kilometers per hour,
wow.
Within few seconds, we are detecting and the system automatically mark for us the entire anomaly that might attach to the vehicle's undercarriage. So this whole process takes few seconds, and that's it.
Just 3 seconds?
No, few seconds.
A few seconds.
Few seconds.
Okay.
Few seconds, and you get a full analysis of the entire car.
So, and just in case, because I've seen some of the videos, and again, we'll link to in the show notes. But what's happening is you are looking, sort of scanning this entire vehicle, underneath, inside, and out. And then, if it detects something, it's like the same thing that would happen at the airport. I mean, where someone looking at the X-ray machine.
So we have a visual alert and an audible alert that tells the operator, listen, there is something weird or suspicious in this vehicle's undercarriage. And it cannot ignore it.
And can this be used without any, does a person have to be there to operate it and view it, or can it be done sort of remotely for safety purposes?
So the supervision guy sits on the control room. He can sit in the control room and see all the alerts that are coming from the system. It does not need to sit next to the system itself in order to detect all those anomalies.
Yeah, and that makes sense, and that would certainly create a much better feeling from a security guard. Okay, so that was your initial product. How long did it take you to develop and get it to market, and where did you start?
So we've been in the garage for 3.5 years, developing the stationary system, the fixed one that digged into the ground, and the mobile system that you can copy it to anywhere that you want. And then we started to implement those systems in all the sensitive security sites, such as the seaport in Israel and other places that we cannot mention, that actually have a great success with it.
And, they for a long time, Israel has been thought of as the leaders in security, and for obvious reasons. And that there's been a lot of thoughts among certainly folks that I know, is like, let's turn over our airports to Israeli security. And you get into things like profiling, which is no one wants to talk about, but why would you search an 85-year-old woman when the odds of that happening are pretty small? But anyway, enough of that. So I digress. So you get this going in Israel, but here we're in Las Vegas talking. How did you get from Israel with this product to the U.S.? And are there any folks using it in the U.S. at this point?
So in the U.S., not yet.
Okay.
We started to Africa, Asia, Eastern Europe. And I think that the thing is that a lot of people are getting to understand that this threat of suicide bombers and the terror attack itself is increasing dramatically all over the world. And anyone can know and understand that there is a need for that. So we started on those countries, and now we're exploring to other countries as well. And we are already we're currently starting also in the U.S.
So, and I would think this is the kind of thing that would be at embassies, at governments. So, as a small company out of Israel, how do you go about getting governments to sort of engage with your brand and believe that you're going to be around? Because that's always the challenge with startups: is it's great technology, but you guys are going to be here next week.
You want to answer it?
Yeah, so maybe I'll comment about that. So it's really a tough business in security, and maybe later we can talk about the other business that we are in the other market. But just for answering your questions, the way you have to do it specifically in security is by partnerships. So what we started doing is looking for local partners in each territory. Okay, and once you have that right local partner, he or them already knows how to talk with the government and all of those things.
And those are sort of distribution and sales partners, not
exactly
representatives.
Exactly, it's not a representative. It's a known companies already all around the world, and we are also always looking for new and other partnerships. That's the way to work in security. You cannot approach directly. No one in Singapore will talk with me if I don't have a local partner.
Interesting. So that's okay. So how do you, as you look at this, you need these partners. So your marketing is really trying to figure out how you help them, right? I mean, you're not marketing it directly, in other words, which is tricky because sometimes you do, companies will create demand and then funnel it to the partners. Others will just sort of support their partners. Which approach are you taking?
So we're doing part of both, okay. Yeah. But the biggest thing I think we've done to help that is to have one project that is successful. Yeah. So we worked very hard on this first 1 to 5 projects, and from then it was a bit easier because we could have bring those partners to see that, and then they were like, "Oh, this is really interesting." Some of them already had projects with this kind of technology needed. They just didn't know where the technology is. So just finding them, that was the hard part. Once we found them, it was much easier.
Right. So you got this successful pilot has happened.
Yes.
And when I think about a successful pilot in this business, it means they caught some bad stuff, right? I mean, or nothing happened. But it's a tricky thing, right? I mean, what does a successful pilot mean?
Hopefully it will not be a successful one, because we do not want it to happen.
Right.
But I can tell you that we can detect small things, such as even USB keys, if we're talking about stealing data from somewhere or anything else. But any reference for a real thing that happened in the past, currently not. I would say that we according to our latest test, we can find pretty much everything that is not related to the car. But up until now, we didn't have anything real in the real world.
But what did happen is that our customers, they tested us again and again and again.
Yes. Funny thing about customers.
Yes.
They know.
And I'll be very honest with you. Some of them have been successful in avoiding our system detecting them. Yeah. But then the good thing about pilots is that when you find the right customer, he works with you and not against you. So our first customers were like that. And then we just very quickly we solved those problems that arise, because every time when you have a new technology and it meets the customer, it has some adjustments needed to be done.
I had a bizarre thought. If you were a software security company, you would hire a black hat hacker to try to beat your system. In order for you guys to continually test it, you need to sort of think like terrorists. And sadly, I mean, that's a scary thought, but you would actually sort of ultimately need to be able to sort of understand what state-of-the-art terrorism is.
So I can tell you, in Oren security, the challenge was very difficult, because bump can have millions of varieties. So in order to challenge it, we need to thought about other solution that can tell us how accurate we can find those threats in each vehicle. So it was very difficult and challenging for us, but we did it.
Maybe I can elaborate a bit there and then take it to a different thing. The challenge we had was to detect everything on the undercarriage of the vehicle, even though we don't know how it's supposed to look like, and even though we don't know how the undercarriage is supposed to look like. So we took a different approach, which is the deep learning algorithms. And I don't want to be too much techie.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So, I mean, basically you had to memorize every undercarriage of every car.
No.
No.
Because
Okay.
that's impossible.
Okay.
That's impossible. We had to take a different approach. Now, this is audio only, no visual, so it's very hard to explain. But I can tell you this. If you will, and I guess you're not a mechanical engineer or cars engineer,
Yes.
but if I show you an image of an undercarriage with a red box in it, smallest as it will be, you will say something is wrong there. This doesn't look fit. Yeah? And you will use something that I would like to call intuition. Now, deep learning is considered, deep learning is part of machine learning, which is part of AI. Deep learning is considered as the ability to add intuition to computers. And that's exactly the approach that we've taken. So what we said, okay, we cannot solve it by saying, let's detect bombs, or let's detect weapons, or let's detect contraband. That's impossible. We took a different approach. We said, let's detect anything that looks unusual. What is not supposed to be there? And it's not by memorizing the vehicle's look. It's by understanding how a flow of the undercarriage is supposed to look like. Training our system to say, this is how it's supposed to look like, and then there's something weird, then alert right away. And the best thing about it, that while developing this platform and this capability for one use case, we found that this can solve many different use cases in the automotive industry.
Okay. So you've raised, and we're going to transition to that. You've raised 15 million so far?
Yes.
Oh, $14 million. Okay. What are you spending it on?
I can tell you that developing the product cost a lot. human resources, and this cost a lot. Now we are expanding our actions to be in each country that we want to be, and exporting and doing that also costs a lot. So we cannot go and sit on our P&L, but it costs a lot, especially when we're talking about developing a product and more generation of it.
So, and I asked that question not just to be silly, because you spend all the money on you either making it or distributing it. Is there any money left for marketing?
No, so the truth is, all of the money goes to the developers, the engineers, the operations, and very, very little goes to marketing. The truth is, what we have done so far is really what we call guerrilla marketing. We were a team of 2, maybe 3 people. That's it. And we participated in conferences, maybe sometimes even without exhibiting. This is what you see right now. This is the anomaly. Yeah. Thank God. Finally, we can also do something much more than that, like a big booth. But if you have met us last year, we had a booth at CES. It was the smallest booth around, with no marketing.
But you got some value out of it and saw the reason to come back this year.
For sure. If you ask me what has helped us so far, was conferences. But by far, the best marketing tool we had was conferences.
And that's for lead generation as well as partnerships and finding distributors. I mean, what have conferences worked for, and what have you done to make them work?
In one word, yes.
Okay.
It was hard to find the right conferences. Yeah, we have participated. I don't know if we should talk about it too much, but we have participated in some huge security conferences, even here in Las Vegas, that weren't so effective. On one hand, on the other hand, we participated in a few very niche conferences that were highly effective. Yeah, so it's a bit of a trial to try and then again. But here, for instance, CES was so successful last year that we decided now we're putting more cards and more resources on this.
You're doubling down, as they say in Vegas terms. Okay, so you developed this one technology, and suddenly you discover, well, this has some broader applications that are perhaps maybe even a bigger market, or at least an easier to sell market, right? And that application is that the same technology can identify a scratch in a car. So you're a rental car company, or you're a dealer and a car comes in, right? You can scan the car and there's a scratch, or there's some, and this. But what I seem to see from the video was that it also detected sort of anomalies in the engines, and so how are you seeing through the metal and things, or am I missing something?
So I can tell you that we are lately finished developing our sound analysis. So now we are not only relying on what we're seeing, we can also relying on what we are hearing. So when the vehicle is passing through our system, we can isolate each component and hearing the problem itself without hearing the background noise. So if we're talking about the engine and we cannot see the engine from the undercarriage or from the exterior, we can hear those problems because we already know how those problems are supposed to sound like.
Okay, wait a second. All right, so the engine is running. Correct. And you have recorded, the computer understands this engine sounds this way. Well, we're back to the same notion of undercarriages. Cars don't every car have a sort of different sort of harmonic tone?
So maybe it is correct that there are differences, but the way we train our models is to look on the common things and then detect the anomalies, and then and when you train on enough vehicles, so the models that we've developed, the deep learning models, they can identify what is in the range of normal and what is out of range.
So I would think there would be a lot of applications for this. I mean, even something as... So one of my pet peeves with the cable boxes in the United States is that they know that you should get a new one every 2 or 3 or 4 years because the modem speed declines, and they know that. And they could proactively, tell you about that. Well, part of what your technology would enable to someone, say, that has a fleet, a company fleet or trucks, it would enable them to know when there was a problem before it was going to happen, because they'd start to hear something. And instead of sending a truck or a driver out with a car that had needed repair, this would be able to detect it. So that could end up saving lives. Talk about how you see this, and who do you think are the first people who are going to buy this technology from you? What kind of companies?
As you said, it's a great example. What you're talking about is a preventative maintenance.
Right.
So because we have a lot of data and we know the life cycle of each problem that the vehicles might have, we have those templates from time to time that we can tell you in advance, listen, this part will be probably replaced in the future because we already know this pattern. So this is one excellent example.
Maybe I can. Okay, so maybe I'll relate furthermore. So our technology supports the entire life cycle of the vehicle, from birth, as we call it, in the manufacturing lines, to the salvage. We just talked with a big salvage vehicles company that takes the vehicle into parts and then sells the parts. Yeah, so it's a huge market. So what we have done, we said, okay, let's stop. Let's think, where do we want to focus right now? Because in a few years, we want to be everywhere. Yeah, but where do we focus? So the first ones we are focusing on are the OEMs, the vehicle manufacturers. Because if you capture the vehicle at the beginning where it's manufactured and you start collecting data from there, then you can provide much insights and benefit to the aftermarket. That is one point that we are targeting right now. The other one is the used car marketplace, because every time a vehicle changes ownership, it needs an inspection.
So here's my idea for you. So as I'm thinking about this, the challenge with any auto manufacturer is that the only way they can add costs is if A, they think that a consumer will pay for it extra, right? Because years ago they fought against seatbelts, then they fought against airbags, right? Things that were good for people, they fought against. And so in order to get a car company to invest in this technology, it needs to be perceived as a competitive advantage, right? So you have to have a brand that is like a seal that says that this has been UVeyed, right? That this has gone through this. And if you had that sort of seal, you would then be able to sort of get a consumer to sort of go, oh, well, it has that. It's like OnStar, right? It has a thing that's a value add. Because otherwise, if it's behind the scenes, it's hard for them to rationalize the cost unless you're going to say, can really show a fantastic ROI.
Wow, this is this is really deep right now, because we are discussing between ourselves, how do we get to the certified by UVeye? That's what we want. That's our goal. Yes, but it's a long way to get there. That's the truth, and we don't want to rush into mistakes. Yeah.
All right. So as we and that becomes your marketing weapon, by the way. When you have that certified by, it's your good housekeeping seal. It is the thing that you own. It's interesting how OnStar has really become a major part of GM vehicles, and how and it struggled at first, but so I'm curious, as you move forward, what have you learned so far about sort of starting a company and running a company? Are there any lessons that you could share with other entrepreneurs? There's some marketers out there that may want to start a company, and maybe you want to discourage them from doing it. I don't know.
First thing, make sure that you have health insurance. But I can tell you that there are so many applications that you can find yourself inside. And as David said, you need to prioritizing what you're going to do and focusing on several things instead of expanding your product to as many applications as you want. I think this is the main goal for startups, that starting developing a product that has so many applications that it can solve. And the first thing that I recommend to do is focusing on small things or big things, but focusing just on them and not on 100 things in parallel.
So I hear you, and I totally agree. And this is what I preach to to all our clients or anyone who listens to the show. But so at the same time, you're talking about trying to bag an elephant. You guys are trying to get GM or Ford to buy your technology as this little company. Isn't there a small car company? How? Because once you got one, obviously you're really going for the big bet, and I guess that's focus. But that's got to be a big uphill climb.
I want to say something about that and generally about startups. Just do it. Don't wait. Don't hold yourself. Don't be afraid. You're gonna do mistakes, and it's okay. It's totally okay. And if you would have talked with us just a year ago when we were here in CS, and you would ask us, what do we want to achieve? What is the dream? I would say, work with the OEMs. Well, you wouldn't believe it, but we are working with a few OEs already. Yeah, just a year forward, and we have systems installed inside OEs manufacturing lines, OEs end of line, those kind of things. It's amazing. We just went to it.
We couldn't imagine that we will reach within 2 years to that point, that we already have a waiting list of customers.
Well, there you go. So that's a success. So conferences have been the main way you've driven your business. Focus, taking this technology that started out as a sort of security thing and expanding the vision of the technology that was already there. Gentlemen, I really enjoyed the conversation. I so appreciate your thinking, and I wish you the best of luck. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks a lot, Drew. Pleasure to have you here and speak with you. Hopefully soon.
All right, that's it. And to all you fine folks, until next week, keep those Renegade thinking caps on and strong.
This has been Renegade Thinkers Unite, but it doesn't end there. Just go to renegadethinkersunite.com for more and subscribe to the show. That way, you'll never miss an episode. We'll talk with you next time on Renegade Thinkers Unite.